When the power goes out, your neighbors become your biggest threat. Not because they're evil, but because they're unprepared. Over 85% of Americans don't have enough food or water to last more than 3 days, according to FEMA. And when the blackout stretches into a week, people change. Fast. They'll beg, they'll lie, and eventually they'll take. Not from strangers, but from you, the one they know is ready. In this countdown, I'm going to show you the 10 things your neighbors will do when the grid collapses. And if you're not ready for every one of them, you'll regret it. Let's get into it. 10. They'll try to borrow your generator and they won't give it back. Let me be blunt. If your generator so much as coughs out a hum in the middle of the blackout, you might as well fire a flare gun straight into the sky that says, "Come and get it." Because in a world gone dark, the low mechanical purr of a running generator is the modern-day equivalent of shouting, "I'm rich," across a canyon. It's audible proof that your fridge is still cold, your lights are still on, and you've somehow managed to defy the grid's collapse. But here's the thing most people don't realize. A generator doesn't just run on fuel, it runs on secrecy. Without that, you've got a target painted on your property the size of your roof. Studies from Hurricane Sandy in 2012 revealed that noise complaints about generators soared in the first 48 hours of power loss. Why? Because they attracted attention, tension, and envy. During Venezuela's collapse, neighborhoods literally mapped out which homes still had working backup power and coordinated visits. In other words, once people know you've got power, you've just become the local utility. You think your neighbor knocking on the door is just asking to charge their phone? That's how it starts. But 3 visits later, they're bringing their sick grandma and expecting you to refrigerate her insulin. Say no, and suddenly you're the villain. Say yes, and your fuel burns out before day 4. So how do you protect it? First, soundproof your generator shelter with insulated panels, weather barriers, or even underground housing if you can swing it. Second, diversify your fuel sources, not just gas, but propane, solar-charged battery backups, and hand-crank emergency systems. Third, never run your generator during the day. Nighttime is safer because background noise drops and visibility decreases. Most importantly, don't brag about having it. Your generator is only as useful as your ability to keep it a secret. Otherwise, you're not running a backup plan. You're running a community aid center you didn't sign up for. 9. They'll dump rotten food in the streets and turn your neighborhood into a disease zone. Nobody talks about this. Everyone's focused on food shortages, but what happens after the fridge dies? Within 24 to 48 hours of a total blackout, your neighbor's freezers will become slow-cooking petri dishes. Meats thaw, dairy curdles, produce ferments, and within 3 days, most homes will be sitting on biological time bombs. And guess what most people do when they panic? They toss it, right into trash bags, buckets, or worse, out into the street. They think they're cleaning up. What they're actually doing is laying down the first layer of a biohazard zone. Here's what you need to understand. Rotting food is more dangerous than no food. According to the CDC, spoiled meat can harbor E. coli, salmonella, and botulism, all of which become airborne as decomposition accelerates. And in warm weather, you've got flies, rats, and disease spreading like wildfire within hours. In the 1999 blackout that hit parts of Ontario and the northeastern U.S., hundreds of tons of food had to be burned because open dumping became uncontrollable. Now imagine that on a neighborhood level with no sanitation trucks, no hazmat teams, and no city workers coming. That's what your neighbors are about to create. What can you do? First, seal your perimeter. Get contractor-grade trash bags and multiple rolls of duct tape. Line windows and vents to prevent airborne contamination. Stock bleach, vinegar, and lime powder to neutralize bio-waste if it gets near your home. Second, do not let anyone store their trash on your property, not even for a few hours. It only takes one leaky bag to bring flies, maggots, and pathogens swarming. Third, If you're truly prepared, you should have a waste burn barrel or trench plan ready, far from your home. And whatever you do, don't let your neighbors know that you still have cold storage. That's the fastest way to inherit all their spoiled leftovers and their diseases. 8. They'll offer you help so they can scope out your supplies. It starts with a knock and a smile. Maybe they offer to help board up your windows. Maybe they ask if you want to split watch duty at night. Maybe they bring you something extra from their pantry as a peace offering. But make no mistake, this is reconnaissance. In collapse psychology, there's a term called proximity manipulation. It's when people feign alliance to gather intelligence, and your neighbors, yes, the same ones who waved at you from across the fence last week, will suddenly become very, very curious about what's inside your home. And here's the kicker. They won't even know they're doing it at first. When desperation hits, curiosity becomes survival instinct. A study done after Hurricane Katrina showed that over 60% of thefts during the crisis were committed not by strangers, but by people the victims knew personally. Why? Because they already knew where the valuables were. They'd been in your kitchen. They'd seen your basement shelves. They remembered your funny hobby of growing sprouts in mason jars. So, what do? You stop being friendly. Kind, yes. Compassionate, sure. But open-door friendly? That ends on Blackout Day 1. You need to compartmentalize access. Keep visitors confined to one area of your home, ideally away from food, water, or supplies. Never let anyone beyond your entryway unless it's life or death. Second, control what they see. If your living room looks like a prepper paradise, you've already lost the element of stealth. Keep your core supplies hidden behind false walls, inside old furniture, or buried in bins labeled baby clothes. The more boring it looks, the safer it is. Your neighbors might offer help, but in the blackout world, help always comes with questions, and every question is one step closer to a raid. 7. They'll start cooking outside and broadcast their meals to every hungry ear. Here's what no one tells you. Smells travel. In the absence of electricity, modern ovens, and HVAC systems, most people are going to resort to open-air cooking. Whether it's a propane grill, a fire pit, or a janky homemade rocket stove made out of cinder blocks, your neighbors are going to light up. And in doing so, they'll send a smoke signal right to your doorstep. Now, this isn't just about jealousy, it's about biology. According to the American Chemical Society, certain food aromas, especially from cooked fats and proteins, can be detected by the human nose at parts per billion. That means if your neighbor is grilling meat 3 houses down, your stomach will know before your eyes do. In a society running on starvation, that smell is weaponized morale. It divides people instantly into the have and have-not camps. And if you're doing the cooking, you better believe it paints you as the elite. What happens next? Desperation. Requests. Then ultimatums. We've seen it play out in conflict zones from Syria to Sudan. Those who control food prep get mobbed. You might think, I'll just cook enough for myself. But once that scent hits the air, it doesn't matter. It's already started the countdown. So how do you avoid this disaster? First, cook at night when smoke is harder to see and noses are dulled by fatigue. Second, use low-smoke fuels like alcohol stoves or gel canisters if you've got them. If you must cook with fire, build a Dakota fire hole, a concealed pit method that reduces both smoke and visibility. And finally, you mask smells. Burn sage, incense, or even rubber if necessary to obscure cooking odors in the air. Because in a blackout, food isn't private, it's political. And once your neighbors catch a whiff of your survival stew, you're either feeding the block or defending your fence. 6. They'll beg for water, then blame you when you say no. When the taps go dry, and they will, water becomes the first non-negotiable crisis. Within 72 hours, dehydration sets in hard. The average adult can only survive 3 days without water, and children or the elderly, even less. But here's what nobody thinks about. The moment your neighbor realizes that the gallon jug they've got under the sink won't make it past Tuesday, you become their plan B. whether you want to or not, and saying no won't just disappoint them, it could enrage them. The numbers don't lie. A 2022 survey from the American Waterworks Association revealed that only 14% of U.S. households keep more than 3 days of clean water stored. That's it. The other 86%? They're rolling the dice. So when the grid collapses and water treatment plants go offline, even if you're sitting on 100 gallons of purified gold, you're the outlier. And outliers become targets. Because here's what panic does. It rewrites ethics. That smiling neighbor who asked you to water their plants last summer will show up at your door wide-eyed, desperate, and convinced you owe them a drink. Worse, if word gets out that you do have a water system, a rain barrel, a Berkey filter, a bathtub full of pre-stored water, they'll start demanding access. And when the begging doesn't work, accusation. They'll say you're hoarding, that you're letting others suffer, that you're killing children. Mob psychology, 111. During Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, there were widespread reports of water trucks being attacked, stolen, or looted by neighbors, not criminals. So how do you shut that door before it opens? Store in silence. Keep your barrels and sheds under tarps or disguised as gardening equipment. Use old detergent bottles to hide purified water. Don't let anyone know how much you really have. And most of all, never ever say you have plenty. Say you're rationing. Say you're almost out. Say whatever keeps their desperation from turning into justification. 5. They'll spy on you, because information will be their only weapon. Don't kid yourself. Your neighbors are watching. Right now, it's casual. They might glance over the fence, make small talk about your shed or your funny little solar panels. But once the power goes out, those glances become surveillance. Because in a blackout, the most valuable currency isn't food, water, or fuel, it's information. And the moment people realize they weren't prepared, they'll start looking for someone who was. Think about this. Humans are hardwired to look for patterns and threats in their environment. When the grid fails, people lose all access to news, alerts, and structure. So where do their eyes go? To their immediate surroundings. And that means you. If you're hauling buckets, tending a garden, bringing supplies out of a shed, it's all being noted. They'll watch when your lights flicker on, even if it's just a lantern. They'll hear your door open late at night. They'll count who comes and goes. You think that tarp covering your rain barrel is subtle? Not when they've been staring at the same back fence for 48 hours with nothing else to do. And once they collect enough pieces, they start connecting dots. He's the one who still has food. I saw her carrying something from the basement. They haven't complained once since the blackout started. And just like that, you become the mark. Historically, this isn't fiction. During the economic collapse in Greece, locals routinely kept tabs on neighbors who had access to off-grid power or medicine. Reports show that even children were used as spies to gather intel on who had what. To protect yourself, embrace counter-surveillance. Keep blinds closed. Use blackout curtains. Vary your routines. Don't exit your home the same time every day. If you're using lights at night, make sure they're red spectrum and sealed tight. And for God's sake, don't talk. Loose lips sink bunkers. 4. They'll pretend it's temporary and drag you into their denial. Now here's the slow burn. The most dangerous neighbor isn't the angry one, it's the optimist. The one who tells everyone the power will be back by morning, or the government's got this handled. Sounds harmless, right? But in collapse psychology, denial is contagious. And when you're the only one preparing for the long haul, they'll guilt you, mock you, and undermine your strategy, because it reminds them they didn't make one. You'll hear things like, "Why are you boarding your windows? That's overkill." Or, "Why are you rationing food? The stores will reopen tomorrow." And most dangerous of all, "Let's pool our supplies. We'll share everything." But what they're really saying is, "I didn't prep and I'm scared, so I'm trying to pull you into my fantasy." History backs this up. In the early days of the Great Depression, families ignored the severity of the collapse until their savings were gone and their farms foreclosed. Those who tightened belts early were mocked until everyone came crawling. Fast forward to today, and it's no different. Your neighbor might see you boiling water over a camping stove and laugh. But 3 days later, when the reality hits that this isn't just a storm outage, that the power grid isn't coming back, those same neighbors will panic. And guess whose house they'll remember? Here's what makes this so dangerous. Groupthink. One unprepared family in denial is a problem, but once 3 or 4 of them start reinforcing each other, convincing themselves that everything's fine, now you're the outsider, the alarmist, the selfish prepper hoarding supplies. And when desperation sets in, that group turns into a mob, because fear shared in numbers feels like power. To survive this, you need 2 things, a poker face and a cover story. Don't correct their optimism. Let them believe what they need to. Never tell them your real supply timeline. Say you're low too. Say you're scared too. And most importantly, don't get dragged into group solutions. In the new world, sharing equals surrendering, because when denial dies, the mob comes alive, and by then, you'd better be invisible. 3. They'll start forming neighborhood watch groups, but it won't be about safety. At first, it sounds like a good idea. In the early days of the blackout, one of your neighbors, probably the chatty, overconfident one, will start knocking on doors to get organized. They'll use words like mutual assistance, keeping the block safe, or watching out for looters. Sounds noble, right? But peel back the layers and you'll find the truth. This is just the beginning of a power grab. When structure collapses, people instinctively create new hierarchies, and that means groups, tribes, alliances. And if you're not part of theirs, you're automatically the outsider. Let's get specific. In the absence of police, leadership, or National Guard, someone will try to fill the vacuum. The watch group becomes the de facto local authority. And guess what? That authority doesn't come with a badge. It comes with peer pressure, suspicion, and mob rule. And when resources get tight, and they will, the group becomes an excuse to control. To ration. To redistribute. If you think that's extreme, look at post-earthquake Haiti or the breakdown in Yugoslavia during the 1990s. In both cases, neighborhood coalitions quickly turned from defensive to predatory, pressuring or outright robbing non-members. All under the banner of fairness. Here's the worst part. If they think you're better supplied, they won't attack first. They'll invite you in. Join us. Share with us. We're all in this together. But once you're in, your inventory is theirs. If you refuse, you've just outed yourself as a threat. Now you're the selfish one, the hoarder. And that label becomes a license for them to act, to reclaim what's needed for the community. To stay safe, you must stay neutral, but invisible. Don't join their group. Don't oppose it. Keep your profile low, nod, agree, but never commit. And never let them inside your home, even just for a meeting. Because once you become part of their list, your supplies become part of their plan. In a blackout, watch groups won't keep you safe. They'll keep you under watch. 2. They'll target the weak and expect you to step in. This one cuts deep, because it's where morality starts to twist under the weight of reality. After a week or two of no power, no help, and no hope, people stop thinking like neighbors and start thinking like survivors. And when that happens, the vulnerable become liabilities. The old man across the street who needs his oxygen tank, the single mom with 4 hungry kids, the disabled vet in the wheelchair. These aren't just people anymore. They're burdens, and the rest of the neighborhood will start looking for someone to help. Guess who they'll choose? You, the prepared one. The one who still seems calm, the one who hasn't begged, who hasn't panicked, who might, just might, have more than you're admitting. That's when they'll show up again with the same line. You're doing okay, right? And what they really mean is, we've decided it's your responsibility now. This is where the emotional manipulation kicks in. She's got children. He's a veteran. They need your help. And the moment you say yes once, you've opened the floodgates. The entire dynamic changes. You're not a neighbor anymore. You're the relief agency. The quiet prepper just became the village parent. You'll be expected to feed, shelter, and protect people you didn't prepare for. And if you refuse, the same neighbors who asked you nicely today will accuse you tomorrow of hoarding, of cruelty, of letting people die. This isn't paranoia, it's historical fact. In the Warsaw Ghetto during World War II, resourceful families who quietly managed to store food were eventually forced to give it up under social pressure or had it taken by force. In collapse scenarios, altruism becomes expectation. And when it's not delivered, the mob takes over. You must prepare now, not just physically, but psychologically. Make hard choices. Build your inner circle. Decide now who you will help and who you won't. Because in the blackout world, if you try to save everyone, you'll save no one. And they won't thank you. They'll drain you. And when you're finally empty, they'll move on to the next. 1. They'll turn on you faster than you can imagine. This is the part no one wants to admit, but you have to hear it. When the blackout grinds into its second or third week, when desperation becomes the new normal, when fear hardens into fury, your neighbors will turn. Not all of them, not instantly. But it won't be criminals that come for you first. It'll be familiar faces, the ones who used to wave, the ones who borrowed your tools, the ones who said they understood, because once they believe you've got what they don't and you won't share, you'll stop being a neighbor in their eyes. You'll become the obstacle, the hoarder, the one standing between their family and survival. And in a world without laws, morality bends. Fast. Studies from the Los Angeles riots, the Hurricane Katrina aftermath, and economic collapses worldwide confirm this truth. Violence escalates not from strangers, but from those close enough to know what you have. It begins with whispers. Then comes the pressure. Then the accusations. And when it boils over, you won't hear it coming. One broken window, one kicked-in door, one fire started at 2 a.m. while you're asleep. And it won't be a gang. It'll be 2 or 3 neighbors you thought you knew, desperate enough to do anything for one more day of food, fuel, or medicine. So how do you survive this? You shut up now? You stop posting your preps online? You stop showing off your rain barrels and solar lights? You stop telling friends about your go bags? You start becoming boring, invisible, predictable. And when the lights go out, you trust no one. You don't need to imagine zombies, militias, or government tanks rolling in. Your biggest threat will live within 100 feet of your front door. They'll wear friendly faces until they don't. And they'll come not with war cries, but with empty stomachs, crying children, and justifications that will chill you to your core. And if you're not ready for that, you're not ready at all. When the lights go out, the rules change. It's not just about gear, gadgets, or stockpiles. It's about people. Your neighbors. The ones smiling today could be desperate and dangerous tomorrow. History proves it. From Katrina to Venezuela, the greatest threat wasn't the storm or the shortage. It was what people did when fear took over. This blackout isn't a fantasy. The U.S. power grid averages over 160 major outages every year. And with rising cyber threats, EMP risks, and extreme weather, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And when that day comes, you won't have time to play catch-up. You'll either be ready, or you'll be the one knocking on someone else's door hoping they'll let you in. So if you're watching this thinking, I've got time, you don't. Start now. Stock smart. Stay silent. And whatever you do, never underestimate how fast your neighborhood can turn into your worst nightmare. This isn't paranoia, it's preparation, because in a blackout, the real danger lives next door.